The West Somerset Railway, rolling gloriously beside the Quantock Hills and the coast, heading for Minehead. Every mile of the route, the very essence of the old Great Western.
It's 19 3/4, which makes us the longest of the heritage lines. So it's a long line. It's a challenging line if you're on the footplate. Okay. We're a very busy railway now, carrying 180 to 200,000 passengers per annum.
There's no time for the hard-working staff of this railway to sit back and watch as steam drifts lazily over the beautiful landscape.
Yes, you've got a very great variety of scenery along the line. You have this climb through the Quantocks, which gives some very splendid views. And you also, of course, have got a very good range of wildlife up there. And if you're really lucky, you may see one of the Quantock or Exmoor red deer. They're very shy creatures, but you do sometimes see them from the train.
From the start, it's a climbing, twisting route, a real test for loco crews, till the line emerges by the sea at Doniford Halt.
Then, of course, from Watchet onwards, you're really on the coastal plains. You have these splendid views if it's a clear day across the Bristol Channel to South Wales. And you have some splendid vistas if you're looking ahead down towards Exmoor proper and the Lorna Doone country beyond. Like Great Western secondary lines, it blends very nicely to the countryside. It's been maturing in the landscape for 130 years now, and we do try to maintain it as sensitively as we can, reaching the balance between having a working railway and looking after the wildlife, etc., that shares the line with us.
And for the folk who keep this busy railway bang on schedule, there's a true sense of pride and dedication.
I love it. I wouldn't be here otherwise.
Before we join our train for the journey, let's take a tour of the route as it weaves elegantly through the changing tapestry of the Somerset countryside. The line's southern terminus and our starting point, Bishop's Lydiard.
The line begins to climb as soon as the trains leave Bishop's Lydiard. Bishop's Lydiard is the start point of the journey for anybody who's coming from the motorway or the National Railway network. And the line climbs continuously for 4 miles to Crocombe Heathfield, which is actually the highest point on the line.
Back down the track, the line still links to the Great Western Main Line near Taunton. But we're going north, full steam ahead into the hills.
Crocombe Heathfield's in the Quantock Hills, which is an extension of Exmoor reaching over to the Bristol Channel coast. And you'll also notice, if you're sat towards the front of the train, that the line swings and turns continuously as it makes the climb, following the contours up through the valleys of the streams. Crocombe Heathfield was Crocombe Station for many years. The Great Western dropped the Heathfield in the 1920s because they were afraid passengers might get confused with Heathfield Station on the former and now closed Exe Valley line. After Crocombe, you begin to descend again. There's a steady drop all the way down towards Willerton. Crocombe and Stegumber, you're really in almost typical English branch line country, with the station quite some way from the places they purport to serve. Again, the fact the railway's cut into the hillsides very much reflected at Stegumber Station, where you have the strange-looking layout with the station building on the ground level on one side, and the platform on the other side of the track, and the garden occupying what was once the goods shed area. That again reflects the fact it's cut out of a hillside. There's a drop into a valley, then you go over another hill crest, and finally you're in Stegumber village. Willerton's an interesting spot when you arrive there because these trains are under the control of the 1862 signal box, which is the last structure of the original Bristol and Exeter Railway that's still in use as a signal box. The station is very much in the Brunel tradition, right down to the gap between the rails being much wider because the line was originally built as a broad gauge setup. Then you swing round to the coast, which takes you to Doniford Holt, which is another curiosity because it was the station that wasn't there in Great Western, Bristol, Exeter or even British Railways days. It was built during the West Somerset Railway's independent existence in the early 1980s, and it serves a holiday village just down the road. It's very much a wayside halt and looks as though it's always been there.
Swinging round towards the west, our route coasts into the little port of Watchet. They call this the Friendly Marina.
The station building there stands at right angles to the track. Now that reflects Watchet was the original destination of the first line. Commercial traffic at Watchet finally died in the early 1990s and the dock area has now been fully redeveloped as a marina, which is proving very successful and helping to revive. From there on in, you're onto the tracks of what was built as the Minehead Railway in 1874.
Beyond the old 1862 terminus of the line, we turn inland again and breathlessly upward, squeeze tight into the Washford River Valley.
We climb up over the track bed of the old West Somerset Mineral Railway as you leave Watchet, and then the mineral line runs as a footpath now along the side. The current Washford station is now home sweet home to the Somerset and Dorset Railway Trust Museum, together with a very fine collection of vintage wagons standing in the yard as a static exhibit, and very much conveying the atmosphere of the old country station with a busy operational goods yard.
Then it's downhill again, heading for the renamed Blue Anchor Station, and a chance to admire the scenery.
This station was originally built as Bradley Gate excursion platform. It became Blue Anchor fairly early on and was developed along with the branch steadily up to 1934 when it reached its current status. Most interesting point about Blue Anchor again is the level crossing gate, still controlled by a traditional Great Western signal box, with the gates operated by a wheel in the signal box, and something of a challenge for the signalman on duty.
The Pebble Beach and Shingle Ridge over the River Aville's flood channel. This is easy work for 7820.
The railway runs pretty much on the flat along the coastal plain to Dunster Station, which is some distance from the village, sadly, but still very popular with people who like to go to the medieval village of Dunster.
Dunster has the castle, a fine church, and a supposedly haunted goods shed. Straight and level across the coastal plain, easing off for both man and machine. Our destination's just about in sight.
You're trundling to Minehead Station, now the company's headquarters, which is smack bang on the seafront and no distance at all from either the Bucklands Holiday Centre or the town centre.
Minehead. The platforms here are 1/4 of a mile long, reflecting the amazing growth of holiday traffic in years long gone by. It's home to the steam loco shed and the loco which will take us on our journey. A classic Great Western engine, and according to the footplate crews, a great performer, perfect for the job.
It's the Great Western Manor class, number 7820 Dinmore Manor. It's a 460 two-cylinder engine, about 25,000 pound tractive effort. It's what they call a mixed traffic engine. was based in various doubles in the West Country, including Newton Abbot and Lair of Plymouth, and then it moved to North Wales to work on the Cambrian line. We own the engine. I'm a member of the owning group that owns it, but also I'm an ex-BR fireman who used to fire these things on the main line, and when they were all scrapped in the 1960s, I never thought I'd ever get on them again. So to me, it's just a wonderful experience. It's been on the West Somerset Railway since 1988. It didn't run on the West Somerset Railway in British Railways days, but it ran on this type of railway, i.e. the Cambrian, which is the same sort of thing. From Newton Abbot, it used to run to Torquay, Payton and Kingswear, amongst other things. So it fits in beautifully, the railway. It fits the railway's image, to be quite honest.
Back at Bishop's Lydiard, with a full glass of water and 225 pounds on the clock, 7820 is ready to haul us on our journey.
It's a lovely machine to drive. It's so easy and simple and very responsive.
And there's no mistaking the sound of Dinmore Manor approaching.
It's got a very distinctive beat. What we call a bark. Some of them have got a soft, muffled noise out the chimney, we'll say, but this one's got a very crisp bark out the chimney. When you hear that, you know it's Dinmore Manor coming, as opposed to anything else. It's very special to me.
The West Somerset Railway employs around 25 people, full and part-time. But it runs smoothly thanks to the enthusiasm of around 600 volunteers. For our trip, taking over the responsibility on the footplate is volunteer driver Simon Barfield, under the experienced and watchful eye of volunteer fireman Paul Rimmer.
This is one of the problems we get now. It's 10:25. We're supposed to be away, and we're now waiting for the right of way from the guard.
And he's probably waiting for a bus.
Yeah, he's probably waiting for a coach party.
We've got the train staff, so we've got permission to enter the section, the next sectional line between Bishop's Lydiard and Crocombe. And we've got the signal, so right away, the guard's ready.
Right away.
Are you clear your side, Paul?
Yeah, clear this side.
Just checking to see that the platform's clear and the train's following well.
If you've got the job right, this is where you can have a drop of tea.
We've got 4 miles of 1 in 80, 1 in 100 varying sort of gradients. Some are a little bit easier than that, but it's all uphill from here to Crocombe. This is Dinmore Manor, which is a Great Western 460 tender engine. It was built in 1949, so it's, what, 53 years old. But the actual design is older than that, and that dates back to the 30s. So this is the second batch. This is actually the first loco of the second batch. And they were the Great Western smallest tender engine with a name on it. So these small wheels are ideal for this line because it's steep and graded and it suits the line really well. foot crossing and a bar crossing. Up here is known as Eastern Cutting. It's about a mile outside Bishop Lydian and gradient east off just a little bit here. And it just gives the engine a chance to build a bit of speed up before it hits the steepest part of the climb to Crocombe. Knowing the gradients and the crossing are vital on this line because you never get much of a forward view because there's so many corners that you can't see. Right side, that's all. You can't see past the end of the engine because of the corners that you're going round. So it's quite a bit of teamwork between the driver and the fireman to see where you're going because sometimes I can see and sometimes he can see. Got plenty of water in the boiler, in fact I've had to turn it off, so everything's fine. Don't always work like that, mind. But as long as you know the engine and the coal, you know, you get the job done. Only trouble is this one comes out of traffic in 2 days' time, coming up for its 10-year boiler overhaul. So if anybody out there got the odd $250,000 to do it up, we'd be very much appreciated. According to the powers that be, the boiler's no good on it after 2 days' time. In actual fact, it stinks fine, you know, but that's the regulations we got here to. Just coming up to the mark to blow off again, so I just put a bit more water in. Going this way, it goes up 4 miles, continuous climb, 1 in 80s, then it drops down 6 miles. So you've got to have enough coal and water to get up the hill, but then when you get to the top, you're 6 miles down the other side. So if you put too much coal on, you're going to be blowing off steam all the way down the other side. So you've got to get it just about right. So when you come up to the summit, we are in about 1/4 mile, I've got to have enough water for the engine to go down the other side, so the water is going to drop down in the glass. But I don't want too much fire, because otherwise, as I say, it's going to be blowing off. We're just coming up to Crocombe here, so this is the top of the bank. So this is the end of it fall for about 6 miles anyway.
We've got Crocombe box here. Now what I've done here, I've dropped my pressure back, filled my water up for going down the other side. See what state my fire's in a minute. When I have a look at that, I know whether I got it right or not. I got to give him the train staff, well, ticket actually we got, because the next one to carry the staff, and get the next staff here. Thank you. Willetton, Crocombe Heathfield.
That was a 4-mile climb from Bishop's Lydeard up to Crocombe. But now it's downhill all the way to Willetton, so Paul can sit down and have his tea.
Well, really, I'm just filling in any holes in the fire. The blast is so strong, it tends to rip the fire about. So you end up here with holes in the fire if you're not careful. Okay, right away, green on the signal, clear my side.
Okay, Paul's giving me the right way, so we'll take the brakes off and open the throttle. And off we go. There's a bit of a wait because it's quite a long pipe from the valve down to the cylinders, so nothing's instant. This is the gears that controls the forward and the backward, and also the like on the car, it also gets more efficient the faster you go. Clear, Paul.
Clear my side.
Just a farm crossing coming up.
Yeah, I've got to keep my eyes open on this crossing because they've got a habit of leaving the gates open. It says please close the gates and they leave them open. So that's what you're up against. Then we got, a couple of 100 yards later, we got a road crossing here. This one ain't so bad because it's got some red flashing lights here for the road traffic. And a white flashing light. White flashing.
Thank you, Paul.
The white flashing's for us. If the lights fail, the white light won't flash. So then we got to stop and hand signal it over. Clear my side.
Thank you. This engine's probably working as hard now as it did on the main line. It's worked its full 10 years and it's travelled about 80,000 miles. So it's earned its keep. And I think it's much better for people to see an engine like this working than it is to see it in a museum. It's got its own smells and its own noises and things that you can't really demonstrate when it is in a museum.
Just hang on. Quick! So this is, which crossing is this we're coming up to?
This is Lee Wood.
Lee Wood.
Hey, to know that.
Right there. Stop.
How long have you worked on here for?
Too bloody long. We got the white flashing light there.
Yeah.
Crossing clear.
started when I was 14, and I think it must get into your blood, because after a bit, quite often you finish at the end of the day and you're tired and you're dirty and you think, why do I do this? But you still carry on doing it, so I'm not sure. I mean, if anything, this is the relatively clean part of it. When you go back at night, you've still got a whole hour to put the thing away. And you've got ash to shovel, out of the smoke box, you've got the fire to take out the firebox, the ash pan needs emptying. I mean, Paul comes away and he's absolutely filled up by the time he's finished. But they still carry on doing it day after day, so you are your own boss. I mean, you are answerable for everything that you do, and everything that Paul does is also my responsibility. So there's quite a lot of responsibility with the job, even though it isn't paid. But on the other hand, I don't think that there is another job quite like it. So
Crossing clear. Just coming into Stigumber now. This used to be a request stop, but it's got quite popular now. You're out in the country, people can go for a walk, so we've made it a compulsory stop here now as opposed to a request stop.
it's a beautiful spot.
I'll just turn my water off for a minute. There's a good pub up the road as well. There's a good pub up the road as well. It's always handy to know where the pubs are around here for when you finish shooting. Okay, right away.
Thanks, Paul.
Just see what state my fire's in now. If I've got any holes anywhere, I'll fill the holes in and start building the fire up for the next climb up out of Willerton.
If you've got a good fireman, then you can afford to not so much relax, but you know that when you look over there, it's all sorted. But if you get one that's new or not so sure, then you always worry. You know, you've got to keep your eye on what he's doing as much as what you're doing all the time. It's really 50-50 because the fireman's got to know about the line from his point of view for the boiler level, and the driver's got to know the gradient and where all the stations are for all the stopping distances.
You've got to make sure you're putting it in the right place, because if you don't, you're not going to get the best out of the coal. No good having a load of coal in one place and nothing in the other. By and large, you have a good back end, and then it thins out towards the front of the fire being furthest away, because that's the front of the engine. What I'm doing now is just getting a bit more on. This apparently is Colombian. The good old British stuff, you can't get any more. Or should I say Welsh, because that was the stuff that these Western engines used to use, was Welsh dry steam coal. So we were using Polish. But then that source ran out from Poland. Then they tried some Scottish, which was fine, but it were a bit smoky. But to my mind, it was better than what we got here, which is Colombian. Trouble is with this stuff, the lumps are too big. So you end up dry stone walling half the time. I reckon I make a better dry stone waller than a fireman with some of these lumps. Now that noise now is telling me that it's blowing off, so I can put the other injector on. It's actually blowing off just under the mark. What I've tried to do is to fire a bit out in the countryside, so as the smoke don't really matter. What you got to try and do is keep the smoke to a minimum around places like Watchet, where there's houses. I can put one of my injectors off now. Just out that side is Willetton's down distance signal. But the injector is putting water into the boiler. So I filled my boiler back up again now. In fact, I can turn the other one off as well. And that'll give us enough steam to get out of Willetton and up round the corner to Doniford.
If Paul gets it wrong, we either end up with too much steam and nothing to do with it, or not enough steam and we can't go.
Yeah, I've been doing it down here for 15 years, and I reckon I just about got the hang of it now. Well, this is the Crowcombe to Willetton train staff, and we give this up here for the next block section. So I've got to pass this to the signalman and pick the next up on the run. And hopefully he grabs that one and I grab this one. The actual engine and the front two coaches are off the end of the platform because the line's so busy now, we've got more carriages than platform length. Don't forget, this was only a minor branch line in VR days, so of course they only ran with short trains.
Of course, back in the original days, all the large trains ran straight through to Minehead. That's why Minehead's got a very long platform and all the intermediate stations are fairly short.
Well, this is where I just jump down a minute and go and get the tea.
The train would leave from London and pick up at intermediate stations on the way at Reading and Bristol, but then the whole train wouldn't stop at all the branch line stations on the way. It would just go straight through to Minehead, where the main resort was. That's what we need.
There we are, 1 tea, 2 sugars and a milk.
Okay. When did you last wash that then, Paul?
Some time ago. I'll tell you what though, it keeps the bacon butties warm. 80-ton microwave this is.
As we pull away from here, you'll see that the fire looks quite yellow now. As we get going, the draft from the exhaust, that'll whip the fire up and it'll actually change colour, and you can see that the exhaust breathing through the fire. Okay, Paul?
Yeah, righto.
It's about 240 tonnes for 7 coaches, but we do run trains up to 9 coaches, so you're going above 300 tonnes then. It obviously varies because some of the coaches are heavier than others, like the buffet cars are heavier. When we're back onto the train, the guard tells us how long the train is and also how much it weighs. station is Doniford Holt, which is a request stop. So we have to get permission we have to get a green flag from the guard who tells us that there's no one on the train who wants to go off there. And then we have to go around the corner fairly gingerly just in case someone's on the platform. It's fairly popular with caravanners. There's their caravan site just around the corner, and it's quite close to one of the beaches, so people get off there and go down to the beach. There's the green flag.
Just coming into Doniford now. We don't usually pick many people up here, but as you see when we come in, there's must be about 20 of them on the platform. Trouble is, you always got to stop here when you're late. If it weren't for the passengers, we could keep the time. That's the philosophy with a big railway now, I think. But here we treasure our passengers because that's what it's all about. They provide the money to rebuild the engines. See the size of some of these lumps they give us? And we're supposed to fire an engine properly on this.
This is where we first meet the sea down at Doniford, so it's only a request stop, but in the summer it gets fairly busy.
What I'm doing now is building my fire up for the next hill, because when we leave Watchet, which is the next station, we're into another 3-mile climb up to Washington. I just need to have a bit of a swill down a minute. It's getting a bit messy up here with this slack pole. So this is our equivalent to a hoover. And it wets down the dust, stop the dust flying around, and generally helps to keep things a bit clean. They also use it to spray over the coal to keep the dust down from the coal, particularly when you're going tender first. If anybody wants a dirty weekend, then come and work on the railway. What I'm doing there, I'm just opening the doors, putting the blower on to keep the smoke down. There's houses all around here, and we try and keep the smoke to a minimum. If he suddenly shuts the regulator and I got my door shut, then you get black smoke everywhere. So again, we try and work as a team. I know when he's going to close the regulator, so I open the doors in anticipation of that, which keeps the smoke down. At least that's the theory. Yeah, as a kid I used to get the old footplate ride around the Bristol area. Okay, crossing clear. And you know, when steam went in '68, it was part of your life had suddenly been taken away, you know. So in '69 I went working on the Festiniog Railway. I just got the hang of the job up there, first time I'd ever gone firing, and then they converted the engines to oil firing. Now, you know, again, all the interest and the smell of coal had suddenly gone. But I was the first fireman to be converted to oil firing and the first fireman to leave.
This is Watchet. This is where the railway used to end when it was first built, which is why when you come out of Watchet, the line bends round to the right and then round to the left, because when it was first built, it was never envisaged that it was going any further. So they had to do a bit of a dog leg to get out of Watchet again.
Right away.
Thank you.
It's a bit of a challenge this on a wet day because trying to get out of here with a gradient like it is and the bends, so you've got all the pull on the coaches when you're going around the bend. So you'll get into a few problems coming out of here sometimes. But that's what makes it interesting.
This railway has got something for everybody. There's the beaches along the way, there's excellent walking, the views are fine if you can't get out of the train. I mean, you can have a job getting better scenery on any of the preserved railways in the country, really. And hopefully it's got something for the whole family.
Yeah, some of the younger kids on the train, they probably never seen a steam engine. So they're obviously fascinated, and it's good for the education as well. Amazingly, some of them, of course, have never seen coal, so they live essentially in houses without a fire. So we give them a bit of coal to take out. Don't impress the parents too much, because they always end up with dirty hands and dirty clothes. But it's all good for a bit of a laugh, and we haven't had too many washing bills, so they can take home a bit of coal if they want. I need to get a bit more coal on this fire in a minute.
I was only 4 by the time steam finished, so I don't really know where I got it from. I think I remember going to a preserved railway when I was about 7 or 8, and I must have just caught the bug from there, because I got involved when I was 14, and I've never been able to give it up since.
Well, with me, it was just something I was brought up with as a kid, and I wasn't really into football, never have been, and probably never will be. It was railways with me that I just got hooked on. Strangely enough, my first memory of the railway was electric line from Liverpool to Southport. I used to go down to the signal box with my dad and watch the electrics go through. There was one steam train each way a day. Southport to Liverpool, to connect with the Liverpool to Euston. Anyway, we moved to Bristol when I was 5, and I was near the railway line then. So I got doubly up then and spent most of my spare time train spotting. Crossing there, you'll get the odd footplate right. Get your eye out on the crossing. Drop the flap, put the doors across. We're really on a climb now, up to Washford. So we've gone from sea level back up again. When I left school, I spent most of my last year at school skiving off in a signal box. So by the time I was 14 and a half, I could work a signal box, but I couldn't do the A-levels. So I left school and went on the railway in 15 in the signal box. Crossing clear.
We've got the job that most of the public see, and they think, oh, that's the best job, but there's so many other jobs. I mean, if people want to come down, they can join the railway and become a volunteer. They can work on the platforms, they can work in the signal boxes. There's restoration of the engine, which is a huge job. There's restoration of the coaches. It's a very varied job because it's got everything from upholstery down to painting. There's the mechanical side of the coaches. People don't even think about any of that.
What I got now is a full glass of water, nearly on full pressure. We're coming up towards the top of the climb. So if I got the job right, I could sit back, put my feet up and look at the scenery. I'm not too bothered about driving, just a personal thing. But I'm not mechanically minded, and I don't particularly want somebody's £250,000 worth of equipment in my hand. And I reckon there's more fun this night firing anyway. So them who want to be drivers could be drivers, and I'll stay this side and fire. Just coming into Washford now, we've gone from sea level back up a couple of 100 feet, and then from here it drops down to 1 in 76, back to sea level again.
Most of Paul's work's finished now. It's downhill and flat most of the way to mine it.
Okay, right away.
Right, Paul's given me the tip from the guard. So we have to take the brakes off, which work on a vacuum brake system, which they come up to 25 and then they're released. And as you let the air back into the system, then the brakes come on. As the brakes come off, we'll blow the whistle and open the throttle. As the engine gets faster, you can afford to save steam and wind the gears back. And it locks back into ignition again. It's a case of balancing the amount of power with this. It's very easy to make the wheels slip, especially on a wet or greasy day. So with a throttle, you have to be quite gingy with it. It moves quite a long way before anything happens, but then when it does, you get quite a lot. So although it's a fairly bulky control, the actual control through it is quite fine. Take the gears up a notch more. And then it's downhill from here, so now the train's moving, I can afford to turn the blower on a bit. It drags the fire through to the smoke box end and shut the throttle.
See that water that was in the top of the glass now is halfway down. So in order to keep the firebox crown, that's the top of the firebox, covered with water, you need to get to the top of the bank with a full glass. So as when you go down the other side, you've at least got it well covered. It's a bit like a lemonade bottle. If you've got a lemonade bottle on the level, the water's level. But if you tip your lemonade bottle down that way, you've got more water in the front, less water at the back. So that's what's in effect happened. I've got more water in the front of the boiler and less at the back. The trouble is the back is where my fire is. So I need plenty of water in the back, otherwise we're going to go bang. Contrary to what a lot of people think, that you don't put any coal on going downhill, I'm actually thinking about what happens to be on blue anchor, which is a little bit of an undulating out of blue anchor and along to Dunster. So I need to keep the steam up for that. Problem is at the moment where all our coal's at the back of the tender, which is not the best place to have it. I purposely done that to use that slack up. It's just all part of the challenge, really.
anchor now, which is another passing place, and Paul will have to change the staff again for another one. Anybody who's got any free time or wants something to do, this is an ideal hobby. I'd recommend it for anyone. So. And if you haven't got the time, you can always come along and try out one of our driver training courses. And you can have a go at driving Dinmore Manor or an engine like it under the supervision of a full-time driver. It's always fun, and people seem to enjoy it and come back time after time. Greetings.
Hello there.
Thank you very much.
Minehead Blue Anchor. What I've done there is just given up the train staff for Willet the Blue Anchor. We've now got a token from Blue Anchor at the Minehead.
It's just another 3 miles now, so we're nearly there.
Okay, right away. Green on the signal. Clear my side.
You've got to watch for the level crossing, because the level crossing straight outside the station. And also there's a speed restriction over the point until we get back out onto the main line. When we're clear, Paul will call out to tell me so. There's no way that I could stand here and drive the engine and look back and see the platform.
Okay, all the coaches out of the loop.
Thanks, Paul.
I suppose you could say this beats working for a living. A lot of job satisfaction on it. I wouldn't like to be on the big railway now, the way they've privatised it. Well, we try and keep the passengers happy, not just simply run some time. We run the time as much as we can, but if we got a party just 5 or 10 minutes late, we wait for the party, make sure they're on, and then try and make a bit of time up on the run. It's not always possible, but a bit of skillful work between the guard and the driver and fireman, you can make up a bit of time. We try and get to the other end of the line on time as much as possible.
This is Kermore, this part of the railway, but we're just approaching Dunster Station, and the castle is about a mile's walk from the station. I think there's a bit of a story that the Luttrells who own the castle wouldn't allow the railway any closer to the castle than this, which is why the railway is such a long way away from the castle.
Well worth a visit. And behind that you've got Dunster Watermill. Dunster is probably one of the nicest villages around here. Just got to keep the eye on the water and the pressure, and have a look at my fire, make sure it ain't gone out. I haven't had one go out on me yet. It's died pretty near sometimes, but it ain't gone out on me.
Just coming up to Dunster. Dunster's got a level crossing.
White light,
Thanks,
clear
Paul.
my side.
Dunster's got a level crossing either side of the platform, so you have to keep quite a good lookout as you come in and out of it. Because although one of them has got lights, neither of them have got barriers, so there's nothing to stop people wandering in front of you.
Can't be enough coal to get us in the mine end.
Yeah, we're slowing it down. At the other end of Dunster Station, you've got another level crossing, so you've got to make sure that you stop as close to it as possible, so that all the coaches are on the platform, but you don't actually want the engine sticking over the crossing.
Okay, right away. Clear my side on the crossing. You gotta watch this crossing because it's got no flashing lights or anything. So you get one or two people that try and commit harry-carry and beat the train. But if they do, I'm sure we'd come off better than they would. This is where you literally need eyes in the back of your head because you're looking at the crossing and you're looking back at the station. What you might call the winning straight now, the homeward leg. Except for we got to work this train back again now.
We've only got the last mile and a half left now, and it's dead straight, as you can see, down to Minehead. And it's all at sea level, so it's flat as well. You can sit down and have his cup of tea now, except he's already drunk it.
Well, not really, because in a minute I've got to think about going back again. So you've got to have enough steam to get into the station as well. We've had one or two crews do the classic, run out of steam on the level crossing coming into Minehead. So you get the engine and the first coach over, and the other half a dozen are out over the crossing.
It has been done more than once, and it's purely because people think, oh, I'm there now, and that's it, and they just don't pay attention. But not so much on the Great Western engines, but on the LMS and the other engines, you need a certain amount of steam just to keep the brakes off. So even if you're coasting, if the steam drops back, the brakes will come on and the whole train will stop. Coming up to Minehead, we've got a crossing near Butlins, and we've got another road crossing as well just outside the station, and Paul's got to give the token up so that the signalman at Minehead can contact the signalman at Blue Anchor and tell us that we have arrived and the line is now clear.
We're coming in now with a red signal in front of us. That's quite normal, because until the barriers come down on this crossing, we won't get the signal. Just get a bit more water in before we get to Minehead. I put a few lumps across the back, ready for going back. Hopefully now what will happen is the barriers will start coming down, and then when the barriers are down, we'll get the light to go in. One of the few coloured lights on the railway, this one. Okay, got a yellow, white flashing and clear my side.
Yep.
We got a yellow here because we're coming into a stop blocks on the end of the platform. That's literally the end of the line. Minehead's the last resort.
Minehead was made much bigger than the rest of the stations on the line to cope with the summer Saturday traffic, which would run straight through from Paddington or from Birmingham with holiday makers. So the platforms at Minehead are sort of 13 coaches long, whereas the rest of the line is only 6. Paul's just dropped off the last token, which was the token of the line from Blue Anchor through to Minehead, which gave us permission to be on this section of line. Of course, Paul's thinking about the journey back now, so he started already. So.
Well, we've got about half an hour now to go on shed, take water, coal, if we need it. We don't need coal today. We got enough to get back, and we actually got enough water. So we're pretty lucky at this moment in time because we've got a bit of time to spare.
That's it, that's Minehead.
The West Somerset Railway is always pleased to welcome new volunteers. For information on how you could help, please write, telephone or visit the railway's website.